Hello again. This is the stabiliser and elevator section that I made up on a previous video, which can also be seen on the website. Since I've finished this, I've sanded all the contours around the edges as per the full size. But what I need to do now is I need to cut the elevators out, because if you remember they were built as one on the plan. I need to cut them away from the actual stabiliser itself, and then just round off the leading edge of each elevator, and then we can start looking at putting the hinges into place, ready for when it goes on the model and installation as a closed loop system. So when you come back in a second, you'll see this all separated, and then I'll show you how I actually round these off to the required angles before we put in the stabiliser hinges. Right, as you can see now, I've placed the plans on the building board, and I've cut the elevator sections away from the stabiliser. What we need to do now is we need to mark out where our hinges are going to go. So what I've done, I've pinned the stabiliser down to the plan in exactly the same position it was where it was built, and with a pen what I'm going to do is I'm going to run my level along and mark off where the hinges need to be on the stabiliser. And I'll do this all the way along. There's 3 hinges that need to connect to each elevator. Then once I've done that, again using the plans as a guide, if we push the elevator up in line with the stabiliser, and then with a small straight edge, we can then run the marks straight across onto the elevator, ensuring that when we cut the elevator slots and the stabiliser slots for the hinges, they're exactly in their right locations, as hopefully you can see here. We've got a pin in the way there, so we'll just come down this way, like so. One more. And that's that completed. So now what I'm going to do, before I actually sand the leading edge, I should have said that before sanding I want to put the marks in place for the hinges and mark the actual, this face of the elevator and the stabiliser. I can mark them. I've got a little tool that can do this. What I'll do is I'll just go and find that, and then when I come back I'll show you how we use that. Right, I found the little tool to help me set up and mark all the hinges. Basically this comes as a kit. You've got a little tool here, and I don't see, just see the little point there. This helps you get the hinge marks centralised on the leading edge, and the way that works is you just place this and then twist it so it's a tight fit, and then just pull down, and that little mark, that raised mark, then just indents the balsa enough for you to be able to see where the centre of the the actual wood is. I don't know if you can see from there, there's a nice mark on there that gives you the centre, and all you do then is work down along each of the marks that we've just done from the plans. Again, I don't know if you can see that. So we've got 2, and then we've got 1 more on this side down this end. And that gives us a nice accurate mark for when we want to cut our hinges. I'll do exactly the same thing on the other side. You must ensure that you keep this nice and tight to both of the edges, and then you'll get a nice central line down the middle of the balsa. Don't have to press too hard, but because obviously the balsa is quite soft. And there again we have our marks ready for now. Do exactly the same thing on the stabiliser. I'll just remove the pins, and again we'll do exactly the same thing again. Just run this down, and that gives us a nice central mark along the trailing edge of the stabiliser. I don't know if that was in view for you, because I'm trying to concentrate doing this as well as the videoing. And then again along here. Just a couple of passes is all that suffices, just to give you the groove. And there you have, again, on there, exactly the same on there. So all we need to do now is just transfer the marks from the side with our square across the leading edge front, like so. Again, we do this on both the stabiliser and the elevators. Oh. And that gives us our exact marks of where our hinges need to be punched out. So I'll just finish this one, and then what I'll do is I'll turn off the video for a minute, get all the others marked out, and then when we come back I'll show you how we actually make the slots. Right, I've gone along and I've marked all the way along, as you can see. So now what we need this tool. Again, this comes with the little centralisation jig, and this tool is used to cut the slots into the balsa. We also need one of these, again, which is a little jig, and the way that works, this slides like so, and then what happens is we just get this, we place this over the leading edge, or trailing edge, sorry, and then we just slide it at an angle, and then that will centralise up, and then we place this little slot here directly over where we want to use this tool to push into the edge, and then it just slots in there, and then very carefully, you have to use a bit of force, just gradually work down through, pushing. You have to use quite a bit of considerable force on there until we go through. I have actually pre-done this one before I come on because it takes a bit of concentration. So then what you should have is your tool looking like that, and as you can see from here, that comes through nice and central. Okay, once that's done, you can pull it all back out again, like so, and then all's left to do then is slide your hinge in, and then you have a perfectly square hinge ready to be married up with your stabiliser. So what I'll do now is I'll run all the way along doing the 6, the 3 on either side for the stabilisers, and then I'll move on to the elevators, and then I'll move on to the stabiliser, and then hopefully when you come back you should see the stabiliser and elevator all connected together, or albeit dry fitted, which moves up and down. And then what we can do is think about sanding the curve that we need on these to ensure that we get the correct amount of movement when we set it up with the closed loop system. Okay, so I'll carry on with this, and as I say, next time you see it, you should see it all connected onto the stabiliser. Right, welcome back again. Done the process of cutting all the slots for the hinges. Now you can see the hinges are all in place and they're all in line with their marks. If you look at the edge there, that's all in line, there's nothing out of true there. They run all the way along, we've got movement. We still haven't got enough movement, so what we need to do now, as I mentioned earlier, we need to take this edge off on this side and this side here, and basically we'll want to get it rounded so it's sort of in line with the dowel, and then that should give us a lot more movement in the elevator. At the moment, as you can see, because it's not rounded, it's catching. Okay, so the way I do that, I'll just pull this all apart. It's all been dry fitted, so just gently ease these all apart. And you see they're quite a tight fit, that's what we want. Okay. Okay, so they've all come apart now. I'll just transfer that hinge back into the stabiliser. And as you can see now, what we need to do is we need to bring this square edge nice and round like the dowel. Now the way I do that, I've got a little plane which runs like with a razor blade sort of affair, and I just will run that down each side, gradually bringing it round. The thing to watch out for here is though, this edge of the elevator is actually cross grain. This runs with the grain, the plane will be running with the grain here, but cross grain. And what we need to be very careful is when we come down to this edge here, we don't want to go, if you push it too hard, you'll rip great big chunks of balsa out because it's on a cross grain. So you need to be very careful here, and what I tend to do, if I find it's going to do that, I'll leave this edge here and I'll just sand that with paper afterwards, because it's not going to take that much to get that rounded. Okay, so as a demonstration, what I'll do is I'll just run and then just down this end, just be careful, looks like it might be alright. Again, yeah, we're going to be alright. And then gradually, I don't know if you can see the angle that we have there, and then gradually bring your plane round, and then might have to come up here a little bit, and it's just working round, and again until we achieve a curve. Now the reason I done the slots first were that once we start cutting this, we're losing our centre. So it's harder to put the centre in on a curve than it is on a flat straight edge. So that's why I've done these first. Okay, so that one, I don't know if you can see, where are we? It's this end here. There we are. That top end there is coming around quite nicely. I'm going to leave that like that now and then concentrate on this side here, and then do the final bit, sanding it, bring it round to its final shape. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll do this one again using the same method as on the other side, and again just at this end being very careful because of the cross grain, and very carefully here, This side's a bit more temperamental, but we'll just go change that angle again. Okay, and just need to come back the other way a little bit. Okay, I think one more along here will give us what we're trying to achieve. So if I bring this back again, as you can see there, that's nearly there now, and the final bit's going to be done with the sanding. So what I'll do is I'll do the other side, and then when I come back I'll show you how I finish the sanding off, and then we'll fit it all back together and you'll see the increased movement we have on the up and down. Right, we've got so far with it. As I say, it's got that rounded appearance on there. We just need to tidy it up and finish it off, and the way I do that with sanding, what I normally do is I just get a sanding block with some medium grade sandpaper, and then just gradually work down the end of our side, and then gradually roll the paper round to help generate that curve that we're looking for. So I'll do that like so on there. And we want to take that round nice and gently until we've achieved a nice curve on that side. Then flip it over and do exactly the same thing on the other side. We do a little at a time. The idea is you want to keep this nice and straight as well, so every so often just run your... If you use the same amount of force on each stroke, you usually end up with something that looks quite good once you're finished. Okay, so again, do exactly the same thing on the other side. Again, just curving the block round as we go, doing like a sweeping motion. As you take the curve round, this end here I'm going to have to do a little bit more because the plane, as I said, with the cross grain, we didn't go quite to the end with the plane, so we're just a little bit more work's required here. You have to excuse me, should be wearing a mask really to do this. Again, flip it over and do the same on the other side until we're happy that we've got the curve on there that we're looking for. Okay, we're nearly there now. We can spend a bit longer than this. I'm just showing you the technique really. Once the camera goes off I'll probably spend a bit more time doing this just to make sure it's exactly how I want it. Okay, but once we get down to this stage, then what I do with the paper is I make like a U shape, a curve like so, and then I just run up and down, just bringing that final curve into its final shape, and this tends to get everything nice and square. Okay, and then we're left with a curve, something like that. A little bit more work needs to be done on this edge, but I'm hoping you're getting the general idea. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll carry on doing this, and then I'll come back and show you the final result with it all fitted onto the stabiliser, and then you should see that we've got a bit more movement up and down, more of what we're going to need for when we actually set the model up for flying. Okay. Right, back again, sanding completed. I'll probably do a very bit of light sanding just before I do the covering, just to smooth everything totally out. But what you can generally see now is we have our elevators in position. These are our hinges butting right up nice and tight, and before we done the sanding we only had that amount of movement. Now we've got that amount of movement, which is more than adequate for when we set the model up. I think on this, I think it's an inch up and an inch down, and I think we've probably got about 2.5 inches either way there, so there's more nice and free as well. So I'm pleased with that. So now what it leaves really to do is to glue these in. These hinges, if I find one that we've not used yet, as you can see, they're nice little hinge, got a little metal pin go through which crimped so it can't come out, and these holes here, these will be hold the glue into place. Basically what I do is I use epoxy mix, thinly spread on there, ensuring I cover the holes, and then that's pushed into the slot, and any resin in the holes will also adhere to the actual wood, which will make a nice tight joint. So there you are. So that'll be a job for a bit later on. What I like to do is I like to get the model fully put together, make sure all the closed loop and other linkages are all working properly before I set these in. It's just something I like to do, because if there is any problems you can, take these out and do modifications if you need to, as opposed to if there's an issue with it all glued together and you need to do something to the elevator because for whatever reason they're not working properly. At least you can take these out and the elevator away from the actual work and get it sorted out before repositioning it and finally gluing it in. Anyway, that's enough from me for now. Hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll be back to you a bit later on with something else to do on the model. Thank you.